you can't calibrate something to something that's not right to begin with, because the information's not going to be right. It's not going to calibrate correctly. The problem is the insurance company is not going to want to pay for anything other than what they deem is necessary in their eyes. Part 2.
Welcome back to the Airing of Grievances, and this is part 2 to a conversation that we actually started last week. And so if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. We encourage you to give us a thumbs up if you like what you see, and then after this video, go back and look at last week's video so you can kind of get a feel for what we're talking about. And if you're a regular, you already know we love you. Thanks so much for being here. Rob, happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you and to our viewers. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so carrying on the conversation that we started last week, you just returned from the CIC, the Collision Industry Conference, as well as the SCRS board meetings out in Cleveland.
Yep.
And you
bringing stuff back to the audience.
Right, and I know that you're always thinking of our viewers. Your filter is and always has been our guests first, and you are our guests today. So let's talk a little bit about emerging technologies and the way that the industry is changing and what it means and why we should care from a consumer perspective. And in particular,
boy, there's a lot to be said there.
I know it's true. But for this particular video, and we'll kind of keep this one snappy and short, you talked a little bit about a comment that was made from the floor, a question that came to you, and then your question back to it. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it didn't actually. It's just kind of a low rumbling of things to come. So I'm looking into my crystal ball, and I'm going to predict the future for you here.
You too?
Yeah.
All right.
So, and to give you a little background, and we've talked many times about the need to pre-scan and post-scan your vehicle, plug into it with an appropriate device, computer system that's going to read what's going on in the electronic side, where all the different buses are talking to each other and, you know, saying, hey, something went wrong here, oh, I burped here, and, you know, some of it's no big deal and it's just a history that happened, but some of it is, you know, kind of a big deal because some of it is event related, like an accident or, you know, other things along that nature. And to be able to understand that is, you know, it's like going to the hospital and you would expect certain things happen.
Yeah.
Okay, they're gonna take your blood pressure, take your temperature, you know,
run the diagnostics.
Yeah, they every time.
Every time.
You're no matter what you go in there for, a broken arm or a headache or a heart attack or whatever, they're going to do the same thing, and we all know it.
I've got a heart issue, and every time I go to the doctor, they weigh me. What is up with that?
So let me just say, what if you went in and they didn't do any of that diagnostic stuff? They didn't take your temperature, they didn't take your blood pressure, and they just went right to trying to figure out what's wrong with you without any of that information?
I'd be a little nervous.
Yes. Well, what if the insurance company said, well, if you come in with a headache, you don't need those things, so we're not going to pay the hospital to do those things? And so the hospital says, well, you know, the insurance company said we don't need to do that.
Now, forgive me for my naivete, but the insurance company and their representatives probably didn't do the 12 to 14 to 20 years of school that the doctor...
No, but they're really good at numbers. and they're really good at watching their bank account.
I would like to believe that I'm more than just a number.
So, along with insurance companies now more and more try to decide when they think a pre-scan is necessary or a post-scan is necessary, because I just got a denial on a BMW that said pre and post scan is that's not necessary for this repair. So it'd be the same thing as you're sitting in the hospital and the nurse and doctor say, yeah, insurance company says we don't need to take your temperature or your pulse or take an x-ray or anything. We're just going to get right into it because, they know.
Well, I am not an expert in the various OEM or original equipment manufacturers and their procedures, but I know that there are many OEMs that require
all of that stuff
for any event. So whether or not you're going back and forth with the analogy of the hospital, whether or not you have a headache, we're going to do all those scans because it's required to find out what could possibly be addressing.
You might have a heart problem, and you think an EKG would probably be in order.
Right?
No, it's not necessary.
Not necessary.
Not necessary.
All right.
So,
go ahead.
So, it keeps getting more and more complex from the insurance side of things, pushing down on the hospital, the repairer, anybody that is needing to spend money to make you whole or to protect you or to look out for your best interests. And so they're not going to really get away with saying that we don't need to take your temperature or anything. And they're not going to really get away with being able to say you don't need a pre-scan or a post-scan during a repair of your vehicle.
I feel like I hear the other shoe about to drop.
Yeah, let's change the music. And we're going to come up with something called a quick scan. Now, this is important. This is not the insurance company necessarily coming up with the quick scan. These are other companies out there that will provide the quick scan. And once they do, and that quick scan is, $39 as opposed to $129.
These are hypothetical numbers. There are no numbers associated with it yet.
But it's going to be something along, and my crystal ball says it's going to be something along that lines. Because somebody in the industry is offering that, and it's less expensive than, the full MRI, if you will.
Yeah.
Then the insurance company is going to say, great, that's all we're going to pay for because that's all it's needed. So I asked the question about this quick scan that is coming down the road.
Okay.
And I don't know how quickly it's going to be here, but
it's on track.
Yeah, it may be here before this video even airs. The quick scan is it's going to plug in just like we do with the computers that we have, and it's going to quickly scan the systems and look for trouble codes.
Okay.
Some trouble codes will put a light on your dashboard, but not all of them.
Right.
So just because you don't have lights on your dashboard doesn't mean that there isn't a problem inside of the vehicle.
Sure.
Just like if you break your arm.
Yeah.
Just because you can't see the broken bone doesn't mean it's not broken.
I would agree with that.
So, we need to do some diagnostics to find out that, to confirm or deny.
And you're probably not going to be scanning, you're not going to do an EKG if I come in reporting that I feel pain in my arm.
Exactly.
Right?
So they have this quick scan. So I ask a couple questions. What's it going to do? And they say, well, it's going to run out there and see if there's any, trouble codes in the system. And I said, okay, well, how thorough is it? And is it an OEM product or is it an aftermarket product? So is it, when we talk about Toyota and Lexus here, we have the Toyota Lexus scanner from Toyota Lexus.
Yes.
And we pay for the subscription for that thing to go into Toyota Lexus, read your car and understand everything about it. An aftermarket scanner is reverse engineered to look for things.
To guess.
Kinda. I mean, it'll still see trouble codes and stuff, but it won't give you the in-depth. In many cases, there's lots of different products.
Sure.
So, I'm not an engineer in that thing, but there's a difference between an aftermarket one and a factory one.
Sure.
So, this quick scan is going to be an aftermarket tool. And so I asked the question, when we have a Lexus or a Toyota here, we plug it in with our Lexus Toyota tool, which gives us a lot of information. and is very thorough.
Yeah.
Knowing that car, because it knows the VIN. As soon as we plug it in, it knows the VIN, it knows the birth certificate of the car,
Yeah.
it knows everything about the car, what it has, what it doesn't have, and it'll go and look at these different things. But one of the things that we have to do is take your passenger seat. It's got a weight sensor in there.
Sure.
And it doesn't have a weight sensor in there to weigh you.
No,
it has a weight
for
sensor
the
in there.
SRS
The
system.
airbag system.
Yeah.
And it needs to know, is there a child there? Is there nothing there? Is there an adult there?
Right.
And that is going to possibly be a determining factor in how the airbag is going to be discharged on the passenger side.
You bet.
Because it could be full on blow if there's an adult in there.
Right.
But you don't want that if there's a child or somebody that's small
Absolutely
in there.
not. Yeah.
And you don't want it to go off at all if there's nothing there.
Right.
So we have to go in and check that seat weight sensing system.
Yeah.
And it should be within a parameter. All right. So you don't want it to be off by 5 pounds.
Right.
Because if it says you're an adult at 100 pounds.
Yep.
And it's reading 95 pounds.
You might not get the safety that you need.
It needs to be, there's parameters.
Yes.
So we have to go into that safety system and make sure that it's in the right parameters, and if not, we actually have to recalibrate that seat, and we use that scanner, and we use weight bags
Okay.
from Lexus.
Yeah.
Bought from Lexus to get that seat recalibrated so it's just right.
Okay.
Then we have to go in and look at the steering angle sensors. So inside the suspension are sensors that know where the position of the. So as you go like this with your steering wheel,
Right.
the wheels are going like this, and the computer system is sensing what degrees these things are at.
Gotcha.
And there should be a center, number, and you can't calibrate something to something that's not right to begin with, because the information's not going to be right. It's not going to calibrate correctly.
Right. So you asked the question about those two systems.
Right.
And
The answer is they don't look at those systems.
you asked, do they look? And,
Yeah.
and they said no.
No, they don't look at them because they do not turn on trouble codes. And this quick scan is only looking for trouble codes. You need to go into these systems and make sure that they're where they're supposed to be. And so I asked, okay, it's not doing that, but it needs to be done. He's like, well, yeah, it needs to be done. The problem is the insurance company is not going to want to pay for anything other than what they deem is necessary in their eyes.
The least expensive route is the one that
And
they
if this
choose.
quick scan can check for trouble codes and there's no trouble codes, then our job's done.
Right.
But that is not the case, and it's not the case in the hospital either, and I think we all know that.
All right. And I have one more question for you on that line, and it comes from the conversation that we had before filming this, but what about newer technology? And we've got EVs coming down the road.
I did ask this person I was talking to, with the advanced vehicles that are days and weeks away from hitting the ground right now,
Yeah.
that have 1,000 horsepower, and you plug them in at night and you drive right past the gas station.
Yep.
These things, they don't get oil changes, they get updates. And the updates, many of them will come through the sky right into the car while you're driving.
Right.
I mean, these are highly, highly technical vehicles.
You bet.
And instead of using a wrench to adjust something, you may use the computer system and go in there and say, okay, let's change this degree of this thing, and it'll do it itself. And
I just want to acknowledge for just a moment that you were typing with your thumbs. Welcome to the 21st century. That's good news.
Okay, thanks for that. So will this quick scan be a solution for that? And he says, well, absolutely not. They're far too advanced for a quick scan to work. It's going to give you some information, but it's not going to give you all the information. There's so many. I mean, some of these cars coming out are going to have 30, 40 different cameras and sensors and LiDAR, and
Yeah.
a quick scan is not going to go and check all those things.
And yet that technology is already on the ground, and it feels like the company that's providing the quick scan, and
Everybody's going to have their own version of the quick scan.
and in your crystal ball, the insurers that embrace the lowest common denominator, it sounds like we are solving for old technology
To a degree.
and not so much looking forward.
And here's why it matters to you. Many body shops are going to also subscribe that that's all they need to do, because they don't know that you need to go. They're not pulling the procedures. They don't know that they need to go check the passenger weight sensor, or the steering angle sensors, or the distance sensors, or any of that other stuff. Many times after an accident, there's things left undone. And the guest, will finally realize that their blind spot monitor isn't working the way it was before, and they'll take it to the dealer thinking it's a warranty concern.
Right.
When it isn't a warranty concern, it's a incomplete repair concern.
Right.
But nobody puts those events together, and the factory lands up paying for it, and that's going to come to an end at some point.
Sure. Well, and there it is right there, Rob. That's the thing that we're most concerned about, is making sure that you get not just a quick repair and not just a cost-efficient repair, but the right repair.
Thorough.
And that's really what this series is about.
Yep.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to look into your crystal ball. Yes. And for sharing that with us. If you've got any questions at all, don't hesitate to drop them into the comments below. We're happy to answer them. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd love it if you would share this. If you haven't yet, and you made it all the way this far into the video, it's clear that you are picking up what we're laying down. Go ahead and click on the subscribe button and the notification bell. That will let you know when we send out another video. You could just check your watch, because it happens at 9:30 a.m. every Saturday morning in the Mountain Standard Time Zone. You can adjust for wherever you are, anywhere in the world. But Rob, again, thank you so much, and happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you. Could I just leave one last point?
I wish you would, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. If you go to a shop and they have a quick scan on there,
Yeah.
and there's no lines underneath it saying, we also checked for this, we also checked for this, we also checked for this,
Raise the alarm.
it probably is not as thorough as it needs to be for you and your vehicle and your passengers.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, my friend.
All right. Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you. Thanks for tuning in.